Good morning, or good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. I'm just sitting here in my study at the church and seeing seeing some of the last uh, roses from the knockout rose bushes outside my study, and a gray sky, but that's okay. I see a little blue peeking through up there, but those clouds remind us of God's presence with us. And of course, the blue sky that peeks through reminds us of His royal majesty, that He is great and greatly to be praised. I hope you're doing that right now while you're watching this. Well, last week we had a really long reading. Uh, this week we're going to do two short ones and kind of balance out. That'll give you more time to talk with your parents about it, perhaps. The first one, the setting is concerns the Queen of Holland back in 1914, so at the time of the First World War. And then the second one is set in England, and so both of these coming from our friends across the Atlantic Ocean. So let's go ahead. Praying soldiers. Praying soldiers. This again is from book 1 of my edition. Queen Wilhelmina of Holland once paid a visit to an army unit in 1914. The Queen believed that the strongest army to defend their country would be a praying army. She therefore asked some who paraded before her, "Who of you can pray?" She did not ask, "Who of you can fight well?" or "Who is very brave?" Her question was, "Who of you can pray?" All eyes were on the Queen, for they had not expected this question. They could fight. Some of them could gamble. Many of them could swear. But pray? Most of them did not pray and would have felt ashamed to have been seen praying. And now their queen was asking who among them prayed. The queen waited. At last, 8 young men were found who acknowledged that they prayed. They had learned to pray at home and had continued to pray while in the army. The queen spoke again. "Such soldiers are worth more than all the others. Such soldiers can defend our country." She then requested the soldiers to sing from Psalm 79. "Help us, God of our salvation, for the glory of thy name. For thy name's sake come and save us. Take away our sin and shame." Why were the most powerful soldiers those who prayed? They may have not been the strongest physically or the largest physically. They may have not even been the smartest intellectually. But she knew that they had God on their side if they prayed. Remember, all through the Bible, God instructs His people, particularly in the Old Covenant context, He instructs His people to go into battle, to go and conquer these lands that are blaspheming Him, worshiping idols, etc. And often He sends small groups of men, not large armies. Why? Well, because He was with them. They didn't need large numbers. In the book of Exodus, when Moses is before the Lord, this is after he's been on Mount Sinai and he has seen the glory cloud of God on the mountain. It's after he's been in the tent and seen the glory cloud, the presence of God. This is after he's he's heard the voice out of the burning bush back in Exodus chapter 3 and told him to take off his sandals, his shoes, for he was on holy ground. Why was he on holy ground? It was just dirt. But the Lord was there. So, this is after all that. And Moses says, Lord, I want your presence to be with me. And then he says, Lord, I want to see your glory. Why? Because he knew as long as God was with him, it didn't matter who was against him. So that's the first lesson. We pray. Mary, the wicked queen of Scotland, said this about John Knox: I fear the prayers of John Knox more than 10,000 soldiers. That's why the Queen of Holland said what she said, because she knows men who pray have God with them, and God is all powerful. All right, let's jump ahead to one that's entitled A Sunday Boat Trip. David lived in England. His parents taught him always to be in church on Sunday. One day, his friends invited him to go boating. They would go the next Sunday afternoon. David's conscience clearly warned him, but he wanted to please his friends. He wanted them to like him. So he decided to go. That Sunday, the weather was beautiful. David went with his friends to the waiting boat. They planned to take a trip down the Thames River. Suddenly, David's conscience spoke. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. David hesitated and then told his friends he would not go. His friends laughed at him and left him standing on the dock. David felt horrible. How could he answer them if they would tease him the next day about not going along? However, the boys in the boat became careless. Before the afternoon had ended, they ran into a barge full of coal. Their boat sank, and 6 of David's friends drowned in the river. What thoughts and feelings were in the heart of David? He had been delivered in a very remarkable way. Do you remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy? Now, that story is not supposed to scare us into doing what we're supposed to do. It's just simply supposed to remind us. You remember, I hope you've read the story of Eric Liddell. He was a missionary to China. What most Americans, I think, probably know about Eric Liddell is from the movie Chariots of Fire from many, many years ago now. But if you haven't seen it, you should ask your parents, and you should get it and rent it or buy it and watch it. I've seen it many times. Eric Liddell knew that running was a great pleasure, but he also knew it was not something that should take the place of setting the Lord's Day, Sunday, apart. That it was something to be done Monday through Saturday. He knew he had 6 days to do this. He didn't need to do it on the Lord's Day when the Lord said, delight in my Sabbath, keep it distinct, keep it different from all the other days, because it's supposed to look like heaven. It's supposed to be different than this world and the things that occupy our Monday through Saturdays. That's what David knew. Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad that when your parents and when your pastors, when they teach you all this good stuff and it goes into your heart and it fills up your mind, so that when sinful temptations come along, suddenly something inside, something begins to nag, and something tells you, you know what, I'm just not going to do that. That won't glorify God. That won't be praiseworthy. That won't help anyone. That won't encourage anyone. I'm just not going to do it. Aren't you glad that the Spirit of God lives in you and guides you in all the truth, particularly in times of temptation? All right, well, that's it for the day. Hope you've enjoyed those two stories and learned a lot and gained a lot, and now you can talk to your parents all about it. God bless you.